Hello, YouTube fans of Paranormal Talks and all that stuff that is around us that many of us are not allowed to talk about. Well, that's what we talk about here on this channel. And I want to thank all of you for joining. And I want to thank all of you new subscribers who have joined the channel. It's amazing to see the channel grow in membership. It's amazing how these interesting times can increase membership of YouTube channels that are not on the straight and narrow and traditional and boring. So this video is about astrology. I want to give you a heads up about astrology. I want to talk about two things. One about the movement of the moon and the movement of Mercury, those two planets. Of course, we have 10 planets, right? 9 or 10 planets. This is an ephemeris. This is what I use. Take a look at this. It's a little bit technical, isn't it? This is what astrologers use and deal with to do their astronomical calculations in order to create charts. This is a chart. This is what a birth chart looks like. This was what an event chart looks like. Of course, all my videos are educational because I don't like to just give you a fish. I want to teach you how to fish. So that's why I show you some of these tools. Anyway, astrology is one of the most technical divination tools that we use here in our culture, in our Western culture. And uses a lot of math and all that. Highly accurate, very, very accurate. Let me show you a couple of websites that will reference what I'm talking about. Here we are. This is our website, Paranormal Talks. We have videos and you can learn more about us. But this is a site I want to show you, and you probably all know about this. This is Joseph Anthony, a very good astrologer. Astrologers are also very psychic. They probably have a stronger developed psychic ability than say the general public. Why is that? Because any muscle you use more than the other muscles, it will develop and get stronger and bigger. So someone who does this on a regular basis, such as Joseph Anthony, that is what you will see. Now, if you want a good overview of what is coming up for us, you may want to look at this video, Pisces 2021 Astrology Overview. That was posted 3 weeks ago. And then, of course, his more current readings of the transiting planets. When I say transiting, I mean, it's like you jump in your car and you transit, you commute from your house to your office. Well, maybe not so much these days since we've been locked down by the Nazis, but you will commute, you will transit, you will take the mass transit train or bus or what have you from your doorstep to your office doorstep. At the end of the day, you will take the mass transit, as in transiting, from your office to your house. So you as a person are transiting. Well, the planets up in the sky, they also transit. They move around also. So that's what Joseph Anthony is good at, as well, is the transiting planets, how they affect say a living body, such as a nation, a country, a state, a city, or even an individual like you and I. Okay, that's a bit of background. So the two things I want to talk about are, I'm going to switch to this because this is Paranormal Talks, is looking at this ephemeris. Let's talk about the moon first and then Mercury. The moon is a planet that begins things, and then where seeds are planted. That's why farmers use the almanac, which may or may not be very accurate, but they use the moon cycles. The moon is where you plant a seed, and then 14 days later, you harvest what was planted. Now, of course, planting crops and harvesting them takes a lot more than just 14 days. But as far as in the human experience, we plant things during the new moon, and then we want to harvest them at the full moon. So if you want to start a new project, if you want to start on a new trip, if you want to start a new job, those kinds of things, you want to start it at a new moon. And then you harvest it at the full moon. Of course, it may be years later, but you want to do things when the moon is new, when the energy is building. So what's coming up for us, and some psychics also talked about this. I should have showed you her website. Her website is Psychic LC. She's out of England. Anyway, so we have a full moon coming up for us the 28th, January 28th. That's Thursday, January 28th. So with the information that the psychics are getting, as well as astrology, we like to combine divination tools, don't we, to double check our predictions. Is I have found that generally 3 days before the exact full moon is when the event, the big wahoo, happens. So 3 days before the 28th, so that will be 1, 2, 3. So that will be Monday-ish. There'll be some big shocks politically and economically, particularly politically. And that seed was planted on the 13th of January. So it will be coming to fruition. If you want more of a broad overview, listen to Joseph Anthony's astrology website. Okay, that's one. That's the moon. Number two, with Mercury. Now, Mercury is that planet that deals with and that rules, unlike the moon, that rules emotions. It rules the general public. It rules your feelings. It rules how people behave based on the astrological sign that the moon is moving through, transiting through. The Mercury rules commerce, merchants, trades, making trades, business, communications, contracts you sign. So that Mercury, it is going retrograde January 30th, Saturday, January 30th. So we want to avoid making major decisions after Mercury goes retrograde, which is Saturday the 30th, and it stays. When I say retrograde, that is when we look up in the sky, we see something going in a certain direction, and then we see it stop, and then it goes backwards. And that concerns us. Well, it should concern you. So it looks like Mercury is going backwards. And then when it finishes its rotation around the sun, it looks like it's going forward again. Anyway, you don't want to sign contracts or make major decisions when Mercury is going backwards. It goes backwards several times during any calendar year. And when it does go backwards, it goes backwards for about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. That's when you stop and you reevaluate the direction and the projects that you have underway or the projects that you are considering. It's a time for reflection and more analysis to come to a better decision. So anyway, Mercury goes backwards starting Saturday the 30th, and then it stops going backwards and it begins to go forward again. That is direct on February 21st, Sunday, February 21st. And then you're somewhat in the clear, but there's a shadow phase. I don't want to get into that. Anyway, so with the moon and Mercury, after the moon is full, then we call it the waning phase, where the moon now was really bright, and now it's reducing its brightness, and now it's waning until it builds back up to a new moon. Well, in that waning phase, when it's waning versus waxing, it's waxing, that is, it's getting stronger between the new moon and the full moon. Well, after the full moon, the moon is dying in effect. The energy is dying to begin a new cycle. So while that energy of the full moon is dying, that is waning, we also have what I just mentioned, Mercury going backwards. That combination, a waning moon and Mercury going backwards, those two bad boys, when they are doing this at the same time, do not make any major decisions like to resign from your job or to quit a job or to start a job. Nothing will come of it. I've tested this. So let me tell you finally, to wrap this up, the story. Of course, I am a scientist by temperament, so I use all of you as well as myself as guinea pigs to test these things. So when I was working in my technology company, several of my coworkers, some of them were leaving the company to start new jobs. And two of the gentlemen I worked with, they left my company to start new jobs at a new company. Well, both of them started these jobs when Mercury was going backwards. I mean, it's just Mercury. Forget about the moon at this point. So Mercury was going backwards. And when you take a job when Mercury is going backwards, not when you accept the job, but when you start the job, when you walk in and you begin to be on payroll to where you're now being paid, that job will last only 12 months. Okay, so let's test this. So these two gentlemen I work with, they left, they both started jobs. So Mercury was going backwards. So I stayed in touch with them. And sure enough, both of them, not just one, but both of them, they both either were fired or quit those jobs within 12 months, and they moved on to another company. And in both cases, they got new jobs at different companies when Mercury was going forward, that is direct. So that's one example. Second example is my boyfriend at the time. He came to me and said, oh, this big honcho in our company, he has resigned. He is out of there. And all this department and all these projects that he had underway, they're all just are going to stop. Well, I looked at the ephemeris, this astrological tool. I looked at the ephemeris, and both the moon was waning and Mercury was going backwards. So I told him, I said, he made a mistake. He will come to you and say, I made a mistake and I want my job back. I mean, nothing will come of this resignation. It was a false start, a big time false start. So, and of course, my boyfriend said I was full of BS because, you know, American boys, they're not into this woo-woo stuff so much. And that's a fact. So 3 days later, my boyfriend calls me and says, oh my God, he says, you're right. This guy has made a big stink and he wants his job back. He made a mistake. He resigned by mistake. So he did want his job back. And this happens a lot. So be careful of a waning moon and a retrograde going backwards Mercury. So that's all I want to say. So heads up, Monday, the 25th, I look over there because I have the calendar on the wall. on the 25th, something big, and then it will finally, the full Monty will hit us on the 28th as far as this whole political theater that we are now in the midst of. Okay, come on, piece of junk, stop it. There we go. Okay, there. So that's all I want to say, and I'll be back with some tarot stuff. This is Paranormal Talks, JJ from Paranormal Talks, and we'll be talking to you later. Thanks. Bye. Bye.